pork chop, I am 100% sure it's done. So I'm going to just pull that out, put it on my drain screen, let that sit. You'll see all the brownness in the bottom of there. That's really nice color. This I'm going to feel. It's starting to get there. You also see, and this is why you don't want to like, kind of poke the meat too much. You'll see that whenever I poked it there, that it's starting to let some juices loose and whatnot. That's why you don't really want to poke your meat a lot to temp it once or twice. I'm doing this more than I actually really want to, just to show you guys kind of where it's at. There's a story from the CIA, from my mentor chef when she was in school, that when I used meat forks to do things, that the chef was, or the trainee chef was poking and poking and poking, and finally the chef went over and stabbed him in the hand with it and said, "How do you like that?" Those are days I miss in the kitchen sometimes, but not all the times. So I'm going to go ahead and try that. As you see, we're still at 100 and just over 120, so we still got about 5 or 10 minutes on that. We'll put that in there, just let it go. Unless your oven's screaming hot, you know, there's enough heat give there at 375 that you're really not going to burn the bottom. So we want a little bit of oil in here, but we want to get rid of some of that. So we're just going to kind of dump that in our tray. We come back, and this is building our pan sauce. We're going to come back, medium heat. And I'm going to make this is going to be a sauce for two. So this is going to be for the chicken and the pork. Just because with the Teflon pan, you're not going to get all these nice proteins that have built up in the bottom of the pan on there. So basically the base of the sauce, shallots, you put them in there. And we're just going to let them cook. You can already see the brownness being picked up from them. You know, and that's all flavor. That's all the building blocks of this sauce. Between the stock, the shallots, and whatnot on this sauce, that's going to be really where you get your flavor, where you build a good sauce. Like I was saying earlier, or during one of the demos, you know, I think one of the things that's lost is this idea of sauce making. You know, it's all the molecular stuff. It's all these sauces that are in blenders and done off to the side, where you're not really building, you know, that flavor. So I dumped a little bit too much out, oil-wise, and add some back in. I'm going to let these cook down, kind of making sure they're separated. I don't recommend anybody kind of does that unless you have kitchen hands or have worked as a welder or something, your hands are used to heat. We're going to let that go. And we're just going to let those shallots cook out very, very quickly. That's why they were minced. It won't take long at all for them to cook out. I'm going to jump my heat up just a little bit. And that color it's on there, that is not from the shallots themselves browning, that is picking up all the flavor from the pan. This also makes cleanup a lot easier if you build sauces like this. You'll see that pan that had all that before, that moisture, just the moisture in the shallots alone has picked that up. So they're nice and translucent. See our pork chop back here sitting. I'm going to take my pears, and this is where I want to jump my heat up a good bit, because I want them to cook quickly. I don't want this to be I don't want this to be applesauce texture. I want this to be a nice sauce texture. So you hear, you can hear the change in the pan as all that moisture hit. Now we're going to give it a couple tosses. Thankfully, I have dogs, so if it hits the floor, they take care of it. You know, I also encourage everybody to try these pears as you get them. You can get these in an Asian market, but they're not the same flavor. They're not as sweet. They're not as crisp. Let those go very quickly. One of my mistake cuts. I'll just eat that one. So again, if you're doing the chicken dish, you really want to use your chicken pan to build this sauce. You don't want to do two sauces. I'm just doing this for a little bit of convenience. And also, I wouldn't get the same flavor or results out of using that Teflon pan I use on the chicken for these. So when they start, you see them starting to break down a little bit. Going to hit them with that last little bit of stock. You just want enough to kind of make a sauce. If for some reason your heat's really high and all your liquid evaporates off, a little bit of water back in won't hurt. Give that a swirl. When this comes up to a simmer, we're going to finish it with some butter. If you're of the healthy mindset and don't like a lot of butter, feel free to, just kind of like this. You could also, for texture, take like a third of it, puree it, and then add it back in, and it would be a good low-fat way to make a sauce consistency without all the fat. And Julia Child's going to summon herself up here at 11 o'clock at night and strike me down for saying flavor without fat. I always thought it would be an interesting conversation to see what Julia Child would think of modern cooking and where kind of the world is with that. So I put that in. At this point again, I want to taste my sauce. And you can see how it's starting to thicken up a little bit. To me, that needs salt. Shocking. Important part with this is you don't want to let it cook to the point where the liquid and butter have separated. If that does happen, most of the times you can drop a couple ice cubes in there, swirl it around, and they'll come back together. Oh, remind us, vinegar is also something we want to get at this point for a little bit of flavor. And I encourage everybody, smell this, taste a little bit as is vinegar, because it's a vinegar like you've never had before. It's comparable with some of the really fine aged balsamics and things like that. So now that that's there, we're just going to slide that off to the side. Kill our heat and give our chicken a check again. So you'll see as we've gone through the chicken, you can see how it's plumped, you can see how the wings separated a little bit. My feeling is we're about there with this. On here. The other thing is as you probe the meat and get used to cooking meat, you can feel when the texture of the meat's done. We're at 155, so I'm pretty happy with that. Pull this. I usually try to let these sit for about 5 to 10 minutes just to let the proteins kind of come back together and let them, I don't want to say find themselves, but kind of let them come together, relax. It won't be as much juices flowing forward whenever we slice them, present them, or the guest slices them. So that's pretty much it. We're finished at the stove. We'll go on to the conclusion and plating.